Welcome back to the channel. This is your boy Rich Latta here today, back with another video. We're going to be doing a reaction to a video that just got released by Rachel DeMita. Make sure you check her channel out, support her as well. And she is uncovering the question of, are WNBA players afraid to play in Indiana? This comes on the heels of an interview that A'ja Wilson did with ESPN and brought up, some concerns. And, they had the 2-game stretch at the end of the season where they were on the road playing the Fever. So they're probably locked in Indiana for a week. So, let's see what Rachel's talking about. And Rachel does a great job. She's been in the NBA 2K community for a lot of years. That's where I know her from, at least. And she usually is very on point. So let's see what she's got going.
What's up, you guys? I'm Rachel DeMita, and welcome to the Courtside Club. I find it quite peculiar that the same people who were complaining that the media was talking too much about Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever are the same ones who continue to bring them up in their interviews.
She's coming out firing, I see. Off the rip, calling out the inconsistency, like the so.
One interview that was brought to my attention in the comment section of my last video is this Q&A that A'ja Wilson did with ESPN. I dreaded being in Indiana, not because like the city or nothing. I was just like, I don't want no to pop off. She continued on and said, it's like that feeling of constantly having that guard up, constantly having to just protect yourself and being ready to take the high road. This year we see it more than ever, and it sucks, and I just hope it dies down. We're starting to lose the beauty of the game of basketball. That's what I hate the most about it. These folks going crazy. Before I even give you guys my
So let's talk about A'ja Wilson's comments first. I think A'ja Wilson is well within her right to feel, how she wants to feel about the new influx of attention that is on the game of basketball on the women's side, as well as, some of the stuff she's facing from particular fans. We don't have access to, what her DMs look like. We don't have access to everything, that goes on. But at the same time, I think A'ja should also be conscious of the big opportunity that she has to benefit from the extra attention. And, I saw her, some excerpts from that interview where she was mentioning that she's never heard her game called boring as much as, she's heard this year. But, when I see, some of the attention that's gone out and all that, for me, I would look at it as an opportunity. I don't think people are so dug in that they can't be won over. I think that a lot of the new fans of the WNBA have been turned on to a lot of different great players around the league. So it's, it's hard for me to be in her shoes, but I'm going to try to extend that grace as much as possible to realize that this is a very decorated player, best player in the league, and she's dealing with the fact that it feels like it was supposed to be her time, but there was this whirlwind that came in that demands the attention. And A'ja feels a lot of reasons that attention is, coming to Caitlin Clark. We won't, get into all that, but let's get back to Rachel's comments.
My opinion on what A'ja says. I have to share with you this meme that I thought was absolutely hilarious. And it's this little girl Fever fan, and she says, can you pass along a message to A'ja for me? Tell her to stay out of Indy or it's gonna pop off. I'm sorry. It's just so funny because I feel like from all of the visuals that I've seen of fans in Indiana, it is mostly kids. You see so many photos and videos, and especially the people who are sitting closest to the court, a lot of the times seem like children. So this to me was absolutely hilarious. However, what A'ja
I have seen lots of kids in the Fever arenas and also, on the road and all that, but surely there are more people than just the children.
Said in this interview is not funny at all. Throughout the entire season, many of teams played in Indiana, many of teams played against Indiana, yet we are only starting to hear about their fans. It really started the most after the break, when people started saying that they weren't feeling safe in Indiana or with Indiana's fans, or the fans were doing too much, or Caitlin needs to call out her fans, or the organization needs to call out their fans. I don't know where this came from, and I don't know why, if you were like truly feeling like this at an Indiana Fever game. There are many moments within the game, if a fan is saying something, or after the game, where you can come out and you can say, like, this was said to me, this is the bad part, I don't feel safe here, I saw this in the crowd, and none of that was said. This is all coming, for the most part, after the Indiana Fever got kicked from the playoffs. So first,
so I'm going to slightly push back on that. I think, you know, when you don't have to show back up to the place, I think it is a little easier to do that. Should, you know, have any player, you know, come out with that during the season, they're going to go twice as hard on that player. Just look at this is a slightly different situation, but you can look at how the fans reacted in Las Vegas to Dearica Hamby. So it could get extra nasty for, you know, the opposing players. It could get, you know, a lot of stuff we don't want, you know, said to anyone, really. But I think it's important to note, just because someone didn't say something at the time, that doesn't necessarily mean it didn't happen.
firstly, that is the one thing that I just feel is very strange. And maybe she hasn't felt this type of energy in arenas her entire career, and specifically when they're playing against the Indiana Fever, because
that was a shot. That was a shot right there. She said, you know, she hasn't felt the energy in the arenas because the attendance has not been like it has been this year, especially in Indiana.
As the WNBA has never seen fans like they have this season. New numbers just came out last week announcing the total attendance numbers in the WNBA, and of course the...
Yikes. Look at that big red bar right there. 643,000 total fans for the Fever. I've seen other charts that have charted road games as well. It's pretty obvious.
Fever led with 643,000 total fans for the entirety of the regular season. The Liberty were second, Aces were third with 425,000. So the Fever had over 200,000 more fans total at all of their games. So that is home and away games. So any team playing against Indiana, you are going to have a bigger, louder crowd than any other team that you play. A lot of these teams also had to move into bigger arenas to satiate the amount of fans who wanted to be at these games, and they were selling out. Now, there is somebody else in the media who had a problem with the fact that away games for Indiana were turning into home games. There was this entire article written, and this was the title. It says, "The Indiana Fever versus Connecticut Sun WNBA game made me feel unsafe."
I'm aware of the article that she was referencing. I believe it was written by Frankie De La Cruz. I don't know if it was for Anscape. I don't remember the publication that published it, but a lot of it has been memed up, and a lot of it has been kind of generally mocked in a lot of different online circles. And, you know, being respectful to Frankie, you know, I can't say what someone's safety feels like. If someone feels unsafe, they feel unsafe. And, you know, it's unfortunate, you know, that they feel that way. There's just this wide brush, I think, that is getting painted on the Indiana Fever fans, the new fans in general, people that enjoy Caitlin Clark, that it doesn't fit everyone. It's not one size fits all. There's been a lot of, you know, vile conversations in a lot of different directions. And I try to stay above the fray. I don't really want to, you know, dig too much into that, but let's see what Rachel has to say.
This reporter said every time the Fever scored, the crowd would erupt, but it didn't feel like fans were rooting for their team. It felt like a threat. There was an ominous feeling in the building.
Is that a tad over dramatic? I think so. I think that's a tad over dramatic from Frankie. With the ominous feeling, like, I don't think anyone was going to rush the building. I don't, you know, or rush the floor. I don't think anyone was going to try to physically harm the players. But it's a nasty narrative that's going on right now. What
are we doing here? Millions of new fans are coming to the WNBA. and now they're an ominous threat. These new fans are the majority of WNBA fans now. And I'm saying that because it's factual, because we have seen the
no cap. She's not capping.
Numbers, we have seen the viewerships, we have seen when Caitlin Clark plays in a playoff game, there are over 2 million people who are tuning in, and then the very next game that she is not in, there are less than 1 million people tuning in.
So that's not really the fault of the other players, I think. That's just Caitlin Clark being a force that you almost can't compare anyone to. You almost got to put her in her own box and start comparing her to herself at this point. And eventually, I think those numbers will come closer together in one way or another. But I don't know if it's a fair comparison to just like say, hey, the ratings have fallen off a cliff. It's like, well, the ratings like that they were normally doing, it's better than those. It's just we got to start making room for. I have a philosophy. So I think about exits on a road trip, right? I'm home, and then say I'm driving to Miami, Florida from Atlanta. There are a lot of exits in between that. We can't just think about it has to be the start or the finish. It has to be an exit in between. And, you know, just saying they fell off a cliff, that's fine. But we can acknowledge the strength of Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever and their ratings, and also acknowledge the strength of the ratings compared to the normal ratings. Like, we are not dealing with someone normal in Caitlin Clark. I think, you know, and I'm counting myself a big fan of Caitlin Clark's and the Indiana Fever, that I think on our side, we need to be more conscious before we say we just spend everything versus the league. Like, ultimately, these entities are going to have to work in conjunction with one another.
She's doubling the viewership of the games that she is playing in, and that's okay. And I just wish, and this is like a point that I have been beating down this entire season, I wish that more players embrace that and use this as their opportunity to be on a bigger stage and take that, because what players,
a little bit like I said earlier, with, you know, A'ja Wilson, embracing the opportunity, embracing, you know, the chance to win people over or shut them up even. Like,
and people within the WNBA have been demanding for so many years was more attention, more respect, higher pay. You need more fans in order to get that. If we look at
the thing is, I think, though, a lot of the league and the players, like, they're not going to budge and compromising on that respect part. And I think there's a lot of conversations to have, and that's going to require listening from both sides, I believe.
Fan bases of the biggest sports in the world, if we talk about soccer or like football, if you're overseas, the biggest sport in the world, that is probably the most toxic fans and people on the planet. But you know why? It's because they have the most people watching and the most people going to these, what is it even called, soccer stadiums. Like, I see the visuals from it. I've never been to like an international soccer game, but those things are wild. Like, there is stuff popping off at those. People have died at those games. And I'm not saying that like the WNBA, anybody wants any of this. No, we don't. But to think that we're living in this perfect society, that more people are gonna also bring more people that suck, or more people that are kind of rowdy. And sports in general is also, it's like a battle. It's not like we're going to a concert where we're all kind of focused on one goal and we're all like in love with the person on stage and we're all like in it together. No. The point of sports is it's a versus thing. It's a battle. It's a fight. Like, that is the energy that is brought to all these sports. It shouldn't be something that I even have to describe. Like, we see it with college sports. We see it with college football. We see it in the NFL. Like,
it's a shock to the system for the culture of the WNBA, because I think so much of it was the league just trying to harden itself from, you know, the outside world, who constantly attacked it for being too black, too LGBTQ, too radical in their political beliefs. But when you open the door, as Rachel was saying, more people are going to come in, and they want to treat sport as sport. The WNBA sometimes does not want to be treated as sport, I believe.
how rowdy people get at these events. And so in order to have this little like peaceful bubble where everyone's amazing and nobody says anything that sucks and nobody's racist and nobody is hateful and nobody's this, it's like, well, you probably just need a small group of people then, and you need to vet through all of them. Is it going to get to
You're not going to be able to check everybody at the door, but I don't think that's a pass for racism either. So, yeah.
Point where this narrative continues on that Indiana's the worst, Indiana's fans are the worst, and players are going to boycott All-Star? They're not going to go because they don't feel...
That would be an absolutely insane thing to think about. Boycotts have happened in All-Star games in places like the NBA, but that was like in the 1960s when players were trying to get paid more, and a lot had to do with like collective bargaining. Should something happen, like we've constantly heard a lot of players say something needs to happen, something needs to be addressed, Indiana needs to check them, maybe it needs to be the league. I think that could fully happen. Indianapolis is going to be a huge event next year. Like, there are rumblings that might end up in like Lucas Oil Stadium or something. I don't know the exact venue or anything, but I could easily see a lot of the WNBA players, some of the All-Stars getting together and being like, we're going to strike on this game. And I don't know what anyone would do about it, honestly. Like, they would be in trouble with the TV networks. Kathy Engelberg would have to come out and make a statement. Of course, it would put Caitlin Clark back on the stage to make a statement. She would be being pressured, hey, do you want to stand with this strike or not? It's going to be potentially, I hope this doesn't happen, that would probably be the biggest story in sports next year if that happened.
Feel safe? If there are true safety concerns, the league should handle those. And the players should feel comfortable that the league is handling them. If they want a player kicked out because if they want a fan kicked out because of something awful that they said or something threatening that they said, the WNBA should be in there and that fan should be kicked and banned. All of the other stuff is nature, it's human nature, and it's the nature of sports. And when you start getting to this popular level, it's gonna be there. And I think it's harmful to continue to spread this narrative and generalize the majority of WNBA fans. But you will win over these people in other ways when they see you play on the court and when they see the great human beings that you are. And with all the rhetoric of Indiana Fever fans being so awful and scary people, I don't think the Indiana Fever players feel the same way. And here's an example to me that I just think is so awesome. So Erica Wheeler once tweeted out, she said, I have tons of DMs of folks trying to buy me dinner and I appreciate it, but I would love for you guys to help me give back to the community. Here's my foundation website where you can
Yeah, I heard something about this. The Indiana Fever fans like lit up her foundation website with tons of donations and stuff like that. And this is an example I think that's getting used to say, hey, the Indiana Fever fans are not all bad people. And this is a great gesture, but this also doesn't address a lot of the things that the players have concerns with. It can be both. Keep this in mind. If I can make any impact on you watching this video, it can be both. Like, and I don't think anyone has to feel kind of wrong about it. But I think, the generalizing just has to, like, I think you just got to talk to people and talk to people that might not agree with you,
donate. And then she tweeted out the Wheeler kids giving back to the community and bringing awareness of choice. Then she tweeted out an update 2 days later that says, just got off the phone with my financial advisor and he said, I guess a lot of folks wanted to buy you dinner. The Wheeler Kid Foundation has hit over $3,000 in donation. She said, that's all because of you guys. Thank you guys so much. You guys are helping me make the world 1% a better place. I love Erica Wheeler. I think that she's such an essential part to the Indiana Fever team. But here's an example of her simply asking Fever fans, like, you guys are amazing, but could you help me with this? And then 2 days later, she raised $3,000 for her personal charity, her personal foundation. That to me doesn't seem like these people are such awful people. People like A'ja Wilson, Alyssa Thomas, and Brittany Griner weren't the only ones to weigh in on this toxic fandom that has come into the WNBA this season. Natasha Cloud was also somebody who chimed in on Twitter. She tweeted a series of tweets. You guys guys can go check out all of them if you like, but there was one that really stood out to me. She said, "We play a beautiful game of basketball. I'm fully aware that sports have the ability to become a microcosm of the world we live in. But what is so special about the WNBA is that we've been a safe space for 28 years. Whoever you are, whatever you are, whomever you love."
Okay. This is, in all respects, to Natasha Cloud for putting that out there, because that's a lot of what I was saying previously. This has been a league that has had to protect itself from so many attacks that I think there's a little PTSD there. And I think there are a lot of people that are coming in good faith, but they are addressing a lot of the people that are not operating in good faith, and they want to protect the peace essentially that they feel like they've created. Whether it's been all peaceful or not, I honestly, I don't believe that, just because the situations that we all have always kind of heard about. There have been fights in the league. There have been the De'Erica Hamby situation. There's more to do with individual players, the Skylar Diggins stuff with the Phoenix Mercury. These are all kind of this is no perfect league, and trying to cast yourself as that is very difficult, I would say, to do. I think that there is a way for Natasha Cloud to still carry on that piece of the league, that she's referring to, those 28 years. There's a way to still retain that spirit, but again, it's going to come from talking to people. It's going to come from going through tough times, and that's just how it is, unfortunately. It's not just going to be everyone shows up and falls in line. People are going to have to learn the rules. People are going to violate the rules. People are going to habitually step over the line. However, this league has already demonstrated they're not going to take it. They're not going to just sit quiet. They're not afraid to speak up for themselves. So it's just it's a thing I think the league is going to have to go through for a couple years, until enough people are why are we not treating these people like people? And I think there's going to be people we want to treat it like a sport, but we will also remember these are people as well. I fully believe this season has been a journey for a lot of people, players, fans, media, reporters, people like me with, a YouTube channel who started talking about it recently, in 2 or 3 years. And it's going to, like I said, it's going to take, it's going to take work. It's going to take understanding. 2 or 3 years, I think the WNBA community and the league itself will be a lot stronger than it is right now, just because this is a shock to the system. What happened? The mass influx of people, the once in a lifetime, kind of person that shows up in Caitlin Clark, and the rest of the league having to deal with that in whatever way it is, whether they feel resentful, whether they foul her hard, whether they tweet the W is more than one player, whether they leave her off the Olympic team. These things are all warts, but I think things will be normalized eventually. It's just not going to be overnight.
I'm going to start by saying I am a fan of Natasha Cloud, and I do feel like she has a good heart. And I think that the series of tweets that she put out was really her trying to unite people a little bit more, stand up for what she believes in, but also unite people. But this tweet in particular bothered me, and specifically the part where she said that the WNBA has been a safe space for 28 years, insinuating that there hasn't been any sort of bullying or any sort of toxicity and things going on in the league, and that's just not true. There's a handful of toxic things that have happened in the WNBA over the past 10, 15 years that I can think of off the top of my head. And Raquel, this girl that I follow on Twitter who has been a part of the WNBA community for a while, she tweeted out this. She said the WNBA media keeps trying to push only Caitlin fans are the bad fans. Meanwhile, they fail to mention the bullying of Sabrina Ionescu, bad Aces fans, the Hamby lawsuit and treatment of Skylar Diggins and overall toxicity of its own leaders, media, agents, coaches, and former players. So if you guys aren't familiar with some of the things that she mentioned in this tweet, so just last season, Sabrina Ionescu was getting tons of hate online to the point that she went and deleted her Twitter to stay away from
She got some revenge on all that, didn't she?
From all of it. Dearica Hamby, we've talked about it a million times here. She talked about bullying when she was with the Aces and how they didn't treat her properly. Also last year, when Skylar Diggins was on maternity leave, she claimed that the Mercury ignored her. She wasn't offered any resources, and she also wasn't allowed in the practice facility. So that is why I feel like when Natasha came out and said, for the past 28 years, this has been a safe space, now this season it has turned into something different. I don't think that that's accurate. And again, I don't think that.
I just think she used like terminology that myself and Rachel don't really vibe with. When you say the safe space, she's talking about and the thing is, that's the way Natasha was going to word it. She can't word it that way. What she's trying to say is like there has been an external force that has changed everything. And we're talking about, myself and Rachel, we're talking about internal things that are on the league. But when you say it in the way Natasha did, that leads us to think, oh, what about this stuff? Like, it's just natural in that case.
That's great messaging for this league. But this video has gone on far too long. So you guys let me know what you think in the comments below. And of course, thumbs up this video if you enjoyed it, and click that little subscribe button because we upload new videos every single week.
So shout out to Rachel for making that video and talking about all that stuff. I had a good time adding in my thoughts to it. I think that this is an evolving thing. And do I think WNBA players are scared to play in Indiana? I don't think they're actually scared. I think A'ja Wilson was just trying to express, kind of, nervousness, uneasiness about it, but she's not afraid. Like she'll go out there and show up and do her job and ball. I think this is a lot of people trying to say things without saying exactly what they want to say because they will get killed for it. But as the story goes, we will stay tuned. We will keep following this league, and we will keep reacting here to things on the channel. Big shout out to all the new subscribers. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. I am going to be running a WNBA Q&A. I have a post on my community tab. You can leave questions there, and we'll do some dope questions here. So my name is Rich, and I'm up out of here, man. Peace.